Hey, so a few notes before we begin this week's Witcher episode, which we already recorded with Lore Master Kevin, but I wanted to put a few things at the top of the show. Say hi, babe.
Hi, babe.
First of all, new branding, which hopefully you can all see on your podcast apps and whatnots. Big thanks to Eago Fung. He is a diehard listener and fan, and he thought our look was getting a little dated, and I didn't really disagree. I was like, yeah, we've had the same logos for a while, and I gotta say, Bimo Garagia, love the Pot of Thrones original icon. It's still really good, and it's on the new logo, just it's in the corner, but we went with sort of a new, fresher look for the moment. So thank you, Eago. That is cool stuff. And maybe more to come. We'll see how that works out. I have a Game of Thrones note.
What?
Because we never talk about that anymore.
This is exciting. I know. We need what's... Okay, go ahead. And then we're going to talk about what the fuck is going on with Game of Thrones.
Okay. All right. I'll take that. Saturday, June 20th, just a couple days after we release this episode, there is a Game of Thrones cast live stream of them playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's going to be fun. It's got to be fun, right?
I just, every time I think about this, the first image that comes to me is... Yes. Jamie, and for some reason, Nikolai was escaping me for a long time there.
Nikolai Coster-Waldau.
Yeah. I can't wait to see him. I hope
he's not.
No.
I'm sorry.
What?
Here's the list of players.
No.
Maybe they'll do another one someday. Don't give up. So here's
I'm crying. I'm crying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go.
All right, deep breaths. Here's the list of people that are coming on this particular live stream to play Dungeons and Dragons. We have Christian Nairn, Hodor.
Yay, we love Hodor.
We have Daniel Portman, Podrick.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, patron saint of Pot of Thrones.
Podrick.
Yes, that too. Natalia Tania, who is Osha.
Uh-huh.
Gemma Whalen, Yara. Not Asha, like in the books, but Yara in the TV show.
Well, I mean, the books have too many Ashas and Oshas.
Osha, yeah. And finally, I saved him for last, mostly because we still don't really know how to say his name. Ewan Rion.
Oh, yeah.
Ewan
Rion. Ewan Rion. You gotta kind of pucker your lips a little bit, like up the top.
And who did he play, dear?
Ramsay Bolton.
Yeah, very good. You still remember your Game of Thrones. It's been so long. What did you want to say about Game of Thrones?
What is going on? Are they still developing the side stories? What is going on? I know they canceled like 2 or 3 of their planned.
Well, there were a long time ago. We knew that there were 5 proposals, for spin-offs.
Okay, those were just proposals,
and we know that one of them got not picked up, but got a pilot ordered, and that. Well, no, it did get picked up. They said they were picking it up for series. They already had gotten a few people cast, like a couple big names that were coming in, and that was going to be, as far as we could tell, with the information that came out, that was going to be the first, what was it called? The long night, the original long night, the war between men and children of the forest coming together to fight the Night's King,
right?
And the White Walkers the first time around. That has been shelved. That was already canceled, and there's a new series in development. I want to say it has to do with the lineage of the Targaryens. It's been a while.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I heard about that.
I think that's what they're talking about. So they're working on that, but I have to imagine that nothing has started being shot yet because they were developing it, and then a plague came down from the heavens.
Yeah. I know, but that's only been like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months or so.
Well, yeah, but it's only been a year
7 months.
It's only been a year since Game of Thrones ended, right? It's been about a year.
We've been dealing with this knowledge of COVID-19 before it was Corona since December.
Yeah.
Maybe even earlier.
That's true.
It's been 6 months at the least.
And 6 months before that, or thereabouts, was when we were slightly underwhelmed with how Game of Thrones ended.
So much has happened.
So much has happened since then. But what hasn't happened is a new series coming around, which is why we're doing The Witcher, and we're going to do The Watchmen, and we're going to do His Dark Materials, and whatever else comes into our transom. But yeah, we lack...
We lack Pot of Thrones content to talk about.
And there are very few thrones
I really
around.
love Pot of Thrones name, but it's not about thrones anymore. We'll have to throw in information about some random throne, or maybe Game of Thrones thrones.
There are many thrones in the world of The Witcher. There's lots of little territories with kings.
Okay.
So
let's make it about thrones. And toilets and
I'm sure in the world of The Watchmen, there's many toilets.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There we go.
That should work out well.
We'll tie it in.
So anyway, Dungeons and Dragons live stream. Oh, I forgot to say this. So if you want to watch it, it looks like the way to go is to simply go to the Dungeons and Dragons YouTube channel. I'm looking at it right now, and there is already a placeholder for the live streams that are coming up. So it appears that you can just tune into that and watch away. And they're going to be doing fundraising. It's for Red Nose Day, which I am familiar with broadly, but I don't know off the top of my head what the charity is raising money for. But
Clowns.
I hope not.
Alcoholics.
Yeah, let's just say it's for
People with colds.
alcoholics. So yes, go to the Dungeons and Dragons YouTube page. Just search for Dungeons and Dragons, look for the official channel. You'll see what I see. It's all right there.
Very cool.
And then we'll talk about it on a future episode.
Okay.
We'll watch it, and we will talk about what we've seen and how much fun it looks like it was and how we want to game with celebrities someday. And
All right. Now I'm excited a little bit to see Ramsey.
yeah, he's going to be good. I bet he is a good improviser, and that's all role-playing games are.
Right.
You got to get into character, which they can all do.
Christian
and then improvise.
Hodor. I'm excited to see him too. He's always fun.
But it's going to be weird. He's going to talk. You're going to see him say real
heard
words.
Him talk.
Besides Hodor.
He was at Comic-Con and we heard him talk. He hosted the panel.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, never mind. Fine. We've heard him talk. Well, if you listen to the show, you've heard him talk too. That's true. Good point, babe. Okay. I don't know. I mean, the world's still on fire. How are you handling everything, babe?
I'm very fucked up. Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having a hard time.
Yeah. Since it's only been, well, I guess a little over a week since we last talked about it. And I gotta say, things aren't looking great yet.
It's just getting worse and worse.
I mean, just to put some names, Rayshard Brooks in Atlanta shot at a Wendy's. I don't know how closely you saw this story. He wasn't.
He was the one that grabbed the taser.
He grabbed a taser. Yeah, he was maybe inebriated, fell asleep in the drive-thru, and they called the police to check on him, and things were okay for a little while. But then they decided to arrest him.
Well, he struggled. Right, they were going to arrest him for being drunk or whatever.
He legitimately did resist arrest, and he managed to get a taser away from one of the cops.
And then he ran.
But then he ran. Now, call me crazy. Like, this guy
is drunk.
You have his car.
Right.
Like, you can figure out who he
him?
is.
Did they shoot him in the back?
Yeah.
That's
like,
already...
At one point, he like swung around and like tried to fire the taser off, and then he kept running or something like that. But they shot him with real bullets. And he had, at worst, a taser.
Right.
It's just so that the Wendy's where that happened has since been burned down, which is...
Oh my God, yeah.
Like...
It's crazy.
I don't know. I mean... People are just pissed. They've had enough. It's not Wendy's fault exactly that this guy got shot to death, but...
This is a really downer when we're getting ready to talk about Witcher.
The Witcher's kind of a downer,
but we were watching something very interesting. It was... what was it on? It was on John Oliver? Was it on John Oliver? Where they were talking about how society has, you know, there's that societal contract where you be a good person... Good things will come to you and you'll be left alone to just go along your merry life. And we'll give you those things that you need to help you along. So the government is not keeping their part of the contract where they're providing for its citizens as long as the citizens are being good citizens. So people feel like they're not, the government's not holding up their part of contract. Why should they hold up theirs?
Exactly. Yep. And I Trevor Noah had a really good talk about that. Maybe I should put links to those videos. It was Trevor Noah, and then John Oliver's show touched on it too. But the John Oliver one I thought was pretty powerful because they ended with, like, he didn't say anything. They just played a video of a lady who was talking about it, like just a lady on the street talking about the protests and why.
Oh, I didn't see it.
You didn't see that part? Oh, well, we got to watch that. I'll put, I think the whole episode's on YouTube. They usually put the Last Week Tonight, like the main segment, they put it on YouTube, but you got to have HBO to watch the whole show. But the whole episode was the main segment, and it was all about policing in America. So I think the whole thing's on YouTube. I'll put links to those in the show notes. The Trevor Noah one, because I think as white people, I know sort of vaguely what the problems are, but it really helps to have someone talking about, it helps to have that information coming in to get the perspective to, what did we hear? It was just try listening, and I'm really trying to listen, and I want to get this right, and I want to understand. I thought some of these talks really helped. John Oliver's a white guy too, but my point being that at the end of the segment there, he had someone who was not white talking about this problem and really putting it into terms that you can really easily understand and also be enraged by, because it shouldn't be this way. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard people talk about, I agree with the protests, but I don't agree with the violence that's happening. And the violence is happening. Yeah, some of the people are bad people and instigating. But they're, they feel like there's nothing left for them. There's nowhere for them to go. This is the only way they're going to be heard. And still, change is so slow to come. And, what's going to happen? They're going to be vilified. And I don't know. Everything's so fucked up. I don't know. People just need to be good people. All around. Government needs to be good government. That's what America is supposed to be.
That would be nice. I mean, some of these people think they're good people. And I don't know how you sleep at night knowing that you've just ruined someone's life, on purpose, just because of the color of their skin. I don't know how that works. And that's a part that I don't think I care to have perspective on, and I don't think I can have perspective on it.
So white people that feel that way are generally not in California. There are some Californians, yes.
Well,
but, there are, but minority or the majority are in other like South.
Well, the South, you see, you see some bigger problems in the South.
Even people that are like, I came from a poor neighborhood and I saw a lot of that kind of stuff happening, a lot of crime and a lot of drugs. And you think, how can the government do this, first of all? And how can these people do this? Well, people that work in the government aren't getting their fair share either. They're getting poor wages and they're working overtime and they're having to deal with shitty jobs and getting very low wages. And so they stop caring.
It makes, the last time I was at the DMV to help my daughter get her permit.
Gosh.
There's this stereotype of DMV workers being shitty to you.
Right.
And I haven't really experienced that much myself, but when you look around the DMV, it's the environment they work in.
Everybody's
just knowing you look up from one person you're helping and you see a sea of humanity.
And the sea of humanity is tired of waiting.
They're all bored. They're exhausted. They're irritated because they've been sitting there for hours.
On those stupid hard chairs.
And I'm sure you want to not have, I'm sure you don't want to have confrontations with people, but your
that's
fuse
your job.
is going to be shortened,
and they get
just
such
by the
low
stress.
pay.
And low pay, right.
Right.
Shitty hours, low pay. They were already in California, at least, they already had their hours cut, so they're not even making full-time wages anymore because of budget concerns. I'm sure they're all at their wits' end and just trying to get by.
Everybody is.
And we have to have perspective on that stuff.
So everybody is angry. Everybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody is clouded. Their judgment is clouded. And you don't think about what's right when you're so angry. You don't, you just think I'm angry and nothing is happening. Nothing is changing. Mm-hmm. And there's nowhere to go.
And I will say, because there's a lot of arguments about whether or not all cops are bastards or just some. ACAB.
Right. They have a hard job, a very hard job.
And when you hear, I was just on a video conference this morning with my day job, and it was not work related. It was just about people talking about issues about race. I mean, it was just about that. And this lady was African-American lady. She was talking about how one of her kids is a federal agent, but even if he's not on duty, he doesn't look like he's just a normal black guy. Mm-hmm. And he can still experience, some unpleasant situations just based on the color of his skin. Like, mm-hmm. and he's still in danger at times. And it's that, like, he's black, but he's also in law enforcement. But I hear lots of people that say, like, I know cops, my cousin's a cop, whatever, and he's a good person. He's not one of these people that we see. And there's a lot of arguments about that. But this thing about the stress levels and being overworked, the overtime, like you were saying, one of the biggest argument in favor of defunding the police is that we're putting too much on police.
Oh, right.
We shouldn't be sending police officers. We shouldn't be sending armed people to situations involving homelessness.
Well, you don't know what's going to happen. You cannot not send armed people into those areas. They have to be armed because you don't know what the situation they're getting into is. Especially if it's in a homeless situation. So you're going into a homeless situation where there could be people on drugs and trying to attack you.
Okay. Well, tasers maybe. I mean, guns.
Tasers might not be enough. You don't. The thing is, on the street, people have weapons and they will shoot you. Especially in homeless neighborhoods. Especially that's where the drugs are. And that's where people with, they can't not be.
And how do we tackle homelessness? I think it's a bigger systemic problem.
Right.
Like, in the current state of homelessness, which is majority people that have mental illness problems, drug problems, and so on. And it's a really violent, people attacking each other, random passersby abusing homeless people. Like, that stuff happens all the time. And law enforcement getting involved from a police level with guns and clubs and stuff isn't really the answer. The answer is
fix the homeless problem.
Problem, mental health care, addiction care.
There is no way people can get off. I'm so frustrated with that fucking system too, because it's all for profit. All of these rehab centers, all for profit. Mm-hmm. There's not government funded, and maybe these rehab centers are getting money for it, but people shouldn't be profiting on other people's addiction. And the way that they're giving them opiates and stuff to get off of whatever they're on.
And you've seen that in action with your own mother.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's how she got addicted to opiates. I think that she was an alcoholic. She went in and they started giving her narcotics to come down from alcohol so she didn't have seizures or whatever. And that was her first taste. Mm-hmm. And she loved it.
And then it became
opiates
and alcohol.
Right.
For the relapses.
When I was for my neck, when I was after my surgery and I was on Vicodin or whatever it was a narcotic for pain for like a week or two, probably more. Right away, I was like, I understand how people get addicted to this so easily because you don't realize how much pain your body is in until you just don't feel the pain. You don't realize my foot hurts, but I'm ignoring it because I'm so used to it.
But did you experience like a euphoric state on that?
No. Well, I mean, I felt great.
Huh.
It wasn't, I don't know what euphoria feels like, honestly.
Yeah.
Except for that moment, like they used to give I was put under sedation or under anesthesia once, and whatever they gave me beforehand, that was euphoric. But I never was able to get that again.
I don't know. When I had my kidney problems, what was that, a year and a half ago, I had some hydrocodone and I tried it a couple times and it didn't really seem like it did anything, even to control pain, much less
maybe it was
a
enough
state where I'd be like, oh, I see why people get hooked on this. But then I think about like what happens if I try the teensiest amount of, say, an edible
marijuana,
and it fucks me up.
Right. It's weird.
It's kind of weird that I wouldn't have any reaction to that.
Well, they might have underdosed you. They don't like people getting addicted. Sorry,
but I'm just saying there are a lot of different avenues to pursue, and someone who is an armed police officer is not always the answer. Maybe you need someone to be a bodyguard for a social worker that knows how to handle and de-escalate situations as a just-in-case measure. Maybe there's something like that. But we send police into so many situations, and because of we've pulled, like you were just saying, like there's no money from the government. Like everything's for profit now. There's no money in rehab centers. There's no money put into social work. I mean, even education's always getting stripped out, but law enforcement is never having its budgets cut in times of need. And it should be having maybe money reallocated from buying tanks and shit into social workers and people that are actually trained to help deal with situations in ways that are not always violent. So for the good cops out there, they're probably still going to be prone to making mistakes because they're overworked and they're in situations they were never properly trained for. And, it's just not the way it should be. So I think there is something to be said there, even if not all cops are bastards. There's still issues systemically with the whole way the system is set up. And, I hate to bring you down, but I not that we didn't already, but I had this tab open in my browser when you're saying like, California is not that bad, but we have had at least a couple. I think there have been more than this, but Robert Fuller and what's the other gentleman's name? I lost it now. Stupid browser. Oh, Malcolm Harsh. 2 guys recently in the Los Angeles area who have been found hanging from trees.
Right.
And I believe in both cases they had been at peaceful protests, I think, or were in some, I think Robert Fuller specifically was, I don't know about the other guy, but he had been a protester, not a rioter, not a protester, but found hanging from trees. Police were just like, oh, it was suicide. Like it's so symbolic and haunting, like back to the original days of lynch mobs and exactly what you would do. Who hangs themselves from a tree?
I don't know. I don't know. It's
the investigation.
Impossible to say even what is real anymore.
Yeah, I guess.
Who knows what's real?
But there needs to be proper investigations done into these things. And when you just have cops come out and be like, meh.
Well, who knows what really happened is what I'm saying.
You may never be able to find out, especially if it was perpetrated by...
We don't even know if the cops came out and went, nah. We don't know what happened. You can't speculate.
Well, there are other officials outside of law enforcement that have said proper investigations weren't done. So there's that. And they're calling for investigations to be done. But again, you're asking the same people to investigate that
called it suicide.
That already said, this is nothing.
Right. And they're going to be pissed now.
Right.
They're going to be like, don't make me look bad. I'll prove to you. And they're going to dig up whatever they can to make it legit.
Right.
If
exactly.
Indeed, this is all really happening.
So it's very unlikely that there'll be any truth to come out of any of that stuff. Last thing I wanted to say, this is more of a public service message here, but watch out for, if you're going to protests, there is a bad element and they're not the protesters. I just want to turn you on to something. Google this. Google the word boogaloo.
Boogaloo? Electric?
Like electric boogaloo, only not in a fun way. Boogalo. Boogaloo. That is a movement of people that are trying to incite a second civil war. Very specifically, they want armed conflict to break out in the streets, and they just want to be able to shoot leftists. But they are infiltrating these protests and acting like Black Lives Matter protesters and that they're up in arms about the police. And it has started. There's been a couple instances, but there was just an arrest made on one of these cases. A guy named Stephen Carrillo. Sounds like a real asshole. No, here, Steve,
Stephen Carrillo out there.
He murdered a sheriff's deputy in the middle of one of these protests and then got away, but eventually was tracked down. But did it specifically to incite violence in the middle of this protest. Like, he started violence not because he was like anti-police and not because he was pro Black Lives Matter. He wasn't a legitimate protester, and he's been found out. So hopefully this is one of those things where the FBI has already infiltrated these groups, because they're on Facebook, they're on 8chan, they're on their own little shitty communities.
Not the brightest people.
It's possible to get in if you just make pretend, because it's the internet. It's all anonymous. So the same way this guy was able to just walk into a protest, hopefully we have the good guys, the good law enforcement agents infiltrating these groups, because this is the last thing we need. But this is a movement I've heard about before, and now they're starting to take action. Before it was like intimidation and hoping for action, but now they're actually starting to do stuff because they see these protests as a good excuse. And that makes the protests themselves more dangerous. Doesn't mean you shouldn't go out to the protest, but it does mean to watch out for people that might be intentionally trying to start violence. So there's that. Good times. We're living in the darkest timeline. Is it the darkest timeline? I don't know.
This is the darkest timeline, or at least a darker one. There can always be more darkness.
We're living in a dark timeline for sure.
Oh.
So let's hope we can come out of that. Ooh, any other thoughts, babe? Should we get back to the escapism?
Let's get back to Witcher.
Escapism. Little escapism is going to do us some good now. So we're going to talk about The Witcher some more. Have fun. If you haven't watched The Witcher yet, fucking go watch it. We're going to be talking about timelines and events, so there are some spoilers, at least a few outside of we're talking about episode 2 here, so a little bit of spoiler content outside of that, so watch out, and go watch The Witcher. It's fucking good. Go watch it twice like we are. Yeah. And
Toss a coin to your Witcher.
Toss a coin to your Witcher. I think we have a new theme song coming soon.
I can't wait.
Booyah. All right, here we go. Here's the episode. Welcome back, everyone, to Pod of Thrones. I'm Jeff.
I'm Yennefer.
We are back with more Witcher action. And joining us for that, of course, is Lore Master Kevin.
Woo!
Kevin!
Hey, guys.
Hey, Kevin. Welcome back. So we are going to talk about episode 2 today. It's called 4 Marks, which we'll find out is not about scars. It's about money. And yeah, so we've got 3 different stories to cover. We got Geralt's story, we've got Ciri's story, just like episode 1, but then we also introduce a new character. She may or may not be important, named Yennefer. All right, so as we start, you were mentioning before we started recording that I keep forgetting to look at this, but there's something in the opening, not credits, but the opening, where there's some kind of symbol on every episode.
Like a title card.
The title
like
card.
Game of Thrones.
Like Game of Thrones, right, but much shorter.
Yes.
But it's different every episode.
Yeah, it changes each episode, yeah. So this symbol shown in the title is the obsidian star surrounded by eels. And we learned later on that that's a symbol of Yennefer's pendant, but it's also the conduits for Aretuza.
Right. Oh, so it's not, I thought you were going to say it was like Tissaya's symbol or something, but it's not. It's actually Yennefer's. It becomes Yennefer's.
Yeah, it's the symbol of her pendant.
Yeah,
but the obsidian star surrounded by eels.
If for some reason you're just tuning in for the first time, let's remind everyone that this is not just that we're recapping The Witcher, but this is our second watch through, because the first time there were a lot of things we missed. So we're going through and we're going to talk about those things we missed. It's really good if you've already watched the show.
Right.
Watch it with us a second time. It's such a good show, but there's many timelines and missing things is easy. So we're going to start well, timeline-wise, we're going to start in the past. We're going to hop around with that shit a bit. But timeline-wise, we're going to start with Geralt meeting a young fellow named Jaskier the Bard. Jaskier? I don't know. How do you pronounce that? Maybe it's just Jaskier. All right. Jaskier the Bard.
Jaskier?
Oh, a soft J. Could it be? Dare we go with Jaskier?
Yeah.
All right. So he's playing a song. I thought it was actually an entertaining piece of music, but apparently the farmers and drunk people in the town that they're in did not agree. So they, after a bad performance. Yes?
Right. If you want to make it easier, we can call him Dandelion because that's what he gets called in the game, anyways.
Oh, really? Wait, we meet him in the game? Okay,
yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Because he's mortal, to the best of my knowledge, so he'll have a lifespan that will not match Geralt's. But all right.
Yeah, he's much older in the games.
All right. How about this? In the game, did they call them Geralt or Geralt? Because I keep hearing both, and I don't know which one's right. Geralt. All right. Geralt. I'll try. I apologize if I keep saying Geralt. All right. Okay, so after a bad performance, he hones in on the one guy in the bar that wasn't giving a shit, and that's Geralt. They talk for just a minute or two. He figures out Geralt's a witcher and even knows his name. He's Geralt of Rivia. Okay, so Geralt tries to leave, and a man hires him to kill a grain-stealing devil. We've all been there. Mm-hmm. It's a real problem when devils come in and steal your grain. I get it. So
they like bread and stuff.
Who doesn't?
He's hiring him for a reason. Because Jaskier says, hey, this is Geralt of Rivia. And then this guy comes and hires him for this reason. And he tells him, you take no prisoners, so I hear, which is directly related to what happened in the last episode when he became the Butcher of Blaviken.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a connection.
Right. But for time, for your understanding, it would have taken a while for that news to get around. They don't have the internet back then. So it would have taken, town to town to town to get this. So this tells you a little bit that what's happening now with Geralt is a little bit after, probably years after what happened in Blaviken.
Oh man, now you're making me want to go back and look at the timeline. Well, Jaskier. Okay, so the Butcher of Blaviken incident was in 1230. Oh no, actually, this is great. I do have the dates on this. The Butcher of Blaviken incident was in 1231. And this episode this plot line takes place in the year 1240. So it's been 9 years. And
that so he's now a little bit more famous because that's how long it's. Yep.
He's also 80 years old. He's an 80-year-old man. I mean, I know I probably shouldn't bother making a big deal out of this. I mean, Aragorn did it, but whatever. And Jaskier is 18. I feel like he looks a little old for 18, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I don't think
it's good that he meets him because as we go throughout the series, now it's now 40. What you said? I don't know, 1240 you said?
I think so.
Ciri's not born for another probably 28 years. Probably another 19 years or so.
Well, if you must know, Ciri's born in 1250.
So another 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Jaskier is really good because as you follow along with Geralt, Jaskier is the only one who ages. So he kind of gets little crow's feet, white hair, stuff like that.
And I thought I kind of noticed a little bit of that the first time around, but I wasn't really sure. So yeah, that's another thing to look for as we continue on the rewatch.
He's the best judge of time from here on out because he actually ages, unlike everyone else in this.
No Geralt fucking other person does. Yeah,
Ciri's Calanthe doesn't really. I mean, she's dead now, but
but when we see her in flashback, she still looks the same. Yeah. Okay, so so this guy hires him. I kind of felt bad for that guy because it seemed like that was a lot of money, like this huge sack of whatever the coins are. Anyway, Geralt takes the job. Jaskier, follows him on the job and says he needs better stories to write about since all his shit was nonsense. So he's going to follow Geralt to find out real stories and real adventures. And when he mentions the Butcher of Blaviken, he gets punched very hard. It looks very painful.
Right, which is he doesn't like the name. He doesn't like the
no,
name.
he does not.
Who wants to be called a butcher?
Right.
Except a butcher.
Right. It's the second time it was mentioned though, so it's just a little bit to understand that from the first episode to this one, how much time has passed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Because he's been going through this shit for 9 years. He's tired of being called a butcher and everyone being afraid of him.
So wait, are you saying the time that they're walking through, he's on Roach and they're walking, that's not 9 years later?
It is.
Yeah.
Not from when they met in the bar.
Okay.
When we get to the bar scene.
Right.
The bar scene is 9 years.
It's already 9 years. Okay.
The end of the last.
I thought you meant that he met Jaskier, I think is his name.
Yeah. 9 years after.
I don't really know how much time has passed. I don't really know. I mean, you just told me, but I didn't look up to see how much time has passed. But it's just listening to the dialogue will tell you that some time has passed.
Oh, yeah.
Because news just doesn't travel that fast.
You are correct. And I'm going to keep referring back to that timeline, which you can find at witchernetflix.com if you want to follow along. Okay. So Jaskier offers to clean up Geralt's image. Geralt's not interested in that, so he says, but I feel like deep down inside he knows he could really use a PR campaign. He gets into a fight. So they track this devil, and it turns out to be a Sylvan, sort of a goat man, whose name is Torque. Mm-hmm. Cool name.
Right.
And Geralt beats him, but doesn't want to kill him, just says you have to get out of here, but then gets ambushed by someone else, a boot to the face, blah, blah, blah. They're captured.
He does do one of my favorite lines of this episode.
Go for it.
He says, "What happened, your motherfucker goat?"
Oh, well, yeah, but then Torque hit right back by yanking out some of his white hair.
Motherfucker snowman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess no one has white hair. No one has white hair in this world because no one ever fucking gets old. That's why. Okay. So both Jaskier and Geralt were knocked out in the fight. We don't need to belabor all that, but they wake up. They've been captured by elves, who we've heard about a little bit during this episode. But they receive savage beatings. They break Jaskier's loot. Very sad. And we meet... let me see if I do this right.
Filavandrel.
The seemingly very reluctant king of the elves. He's definitely not... he's not a Legolas type, but I kind of like him. He seems like he's got a good moral center, and he's filled with a lot of righteous anger over what's been done to the elves. So we don't really know a lot about the history of the world. There's been talk, even Jaskier was talking about it, how the elves gave this land to the humans and then left for their golden palaces. But we also know that there's something in the timeline called the cleansing of the elves, which started, incidentally, when Geralt was a young boy. So it happened a long time ago. But yeah, it was a purge. The humans fucked over the elves. It's real. I know this was written in Poland, but it's got a real Native American America vibe, like Manifest Destiny kind of shit. It just stinks of that. So they slaughtered the elves. The elves had to retreat, and now they're living in squalor in caves, not golden palaces. So we learn all this stuff from Filavandrel. Yes.
Right, but Jaskier thought the elves gave up their land, donated to humans, and now lived in golden palaces.
Yeah, there's a big difference. So the history is written by the victors. Yeah. We all know that.
Yeah,
that's a common theme, and
they needed Sylvan to steal for them.
Right,
they needed Sylvan to steal for them
because they couldn't come out of the mountains and reveal that they're here, or man will rise up and drive them out again, or kill them. And Geralt's kind of saying, like, maybe you could work with humans. Come on down. We'll all have a talk. But he says he will not bow to human sovereignty again. That's not going to happen. So they have to learn to live on their own. Geralt mentions that he doesn't consider himself to be human. That comes up a few times just in that one conversation. He's not a human. He's a mutant. But he says he's learned to live with humans so that he himself can live. So there's that.
Right.
Torque convinces Filavandrel not to kill Geralt and Jaskier, I guess. So it's sort of a long scene, but it's relatively simple in the grand scheme of things.
It's also very important to understand the timelines too, because Filavandrel, they're living in mountains.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And he's going to kill Geralt, and Geralt says, "You know what? Go away, get strong, and then come back."
Right.
So that's what they decide to do. But when we go later into series timeline,
it's going to come up.
We see a young boy, elf ears, wearing elf ears.
Well, spoilers,
and that's because Filavandrel had the elves rise up and start fighting for their land. So he has gone away, gotten stronger, and has come back. So I mean, that's kind of an understanding of the timeline there.
Yep.
In Geralt's time, they haven't gone away yet. In series time, they've already gone away, got strong, and came back.
Exactly. Okay, so Geralt and Jaskier get to go free after that conversation with Filavandrel, and Jaskier writes the song toss a coin to your witcher, which I found,
which is awesome.
I really like. I really like that song. Yeah, it really stuck with me for a while.
It is a good song. Yes, it did.
And he's a decent singer. I like that guy, whoever he is. I guess I should look up the actors at some point.
Hey, you know what? I mentioned this last week when we talked about it. They don't mention his name. Like, I mean, they never say his name till. I mean, they do later on. They mention his name, but in the episode, they never mention Yaskir's name. So that's why we're having a hard time saying.
Are you sure? I thought he introduced himself.
They don't say it.
All right. Well, you were probably watching for that. I'll take your word for it.
His name is Joey Beatty.
Joey Beatty?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Well, I like him.
Well, I mean, if you missed Yasker, they just mentioned Dandelion. But I'm saying, like, I wrote it down because I was listening for the name, and I was reading the subtitles to see the names, and I don't.
That's fair.
I mean, when he introduced himself, I don't think he told him his name. He asked why he didn't like it, and then he said he found out who he was, and then I don't think he said his name, but we do hear it later.
Yeah. It's not a secret forever, but I guess maybe the writers just didn't think it was important. I don't know. That's kind of weird.
No, I think they just do it just to kind of bring the mystery. But I do want to mention that before they left, Geralt did mention the lesser evil again, which happened in the last episode.
Yep. That's right. That's a common theme. Okay, so that's the Geralt story.
And the lesser evil.
And, right, exactly. So that's all there is for Geralt in this episode. It was not insignificant, but it was pretty short because this episode's mostly about Yennefer. But before we do that, Ciri. So you mentioned the Ciri storyline already, and let's talk about that. So Ciri's alone in the woods. Fine. There's people calling out for her by name, but she's hiding from them. She thinks they're not the right people. I don't know if we could actually see banners for them or not, but she's hiding from them. She puts mud in her hair so she doesn't look so blonde anymore. And then she's about to eat poison berries, and that's how we meet Dara, who does not talk, and we don't get his...
calls
Rat Boy.
Rat Boy, right. He cooks a rat for her.
She calls him Rat Boy.
He makes her a rat, so thankfully she gives him the name Rat Boy.
She could use some protein. She's been on the road for 3 days and doesn't even know her poison berries. I think she should be lucky to have a rat.
She's going to start eating her own fingers.
She starts looking down on him, just like a human.
Right. How dare she?
Humans. But we don't know that he's not a human.
3 days since she left.
Right. 3 days since she left. 3 days since the siege of Sintra. She could have called him
Hat Boy. I mean, come on.
That would have been so much better. I wish you were her mom. You would have raised her right.
Yes.
Okay, so they wind up finding a camp that's flying the flags of Sintra. She
shows her kindness to him, by the way. She does show her kindness, like what type of woman she is.
The glove.
Because she gives up her glove.
Was that before the camp? I thought that was after.
It was after they ate rats.
After no, you're right. Okay, yeah, you're right.
They ate rat before they find the Citran flag, because when they find the Citra flag,
he disappears.
He disappears.
That was just before, right?
You're right.
Yeah,
but we know why later.
She shares a glove, so yes, we do.
She's sweet. She's a good person.
So she goes and she meets up with these humans. She's trying to get some food, whatever. And she meets this dude. I'm not even going to bother naming him because he's an asshole. But he's nice to Ciri. But he introduces himself and then explains himself as like, I'm the guy that wears a necklace made of elf ears because I like to kill elves because they killed a lot of our people in Filavandrel's uprising.
Right.
Like he mentions Filavandrel by name. So fun writing again. We don't necessarily connect all the dots because they just say a name in passing. And then it's not till later in the episode where you meet the dude. And by then you're like, did that name come up before? And I don't know. And again, second watch is a huge bonus. But the fucking necklace of ears, I mean, isn't that like some Vietnam shit for like soldiers that went completely crazy and started taking trophies and fucking, nasty.
Yeah, wearing dicks around their neck.
So we meet that guy's family. They're pretty upscale for refugees. They're in a nice tent. They give Ciri new shoes, but the new shoes are off the feet of their servant dwarf.
Oh my gosh, that was so sad.
What a bitch.
I know. Yes. And why didn't Ciri say no thank you?
She looks like she felt bad, but she
did
did it anyway.
Totally.
And, I mean, and then we got to find out what's going, like, are they called dwarves in this world? Are they, is it dwarfism or is it,
I didn't look it up.
Is it a race of short people? Yeah, I didn't look it up either, but it is something that I feel like
it was dwarves, but it was midgets.
They've got to come up again at some point because it seemed to be important that this old lady
Such a bitch. She was so nice to Ciri.
She was so nice to Ciri, but when Ciri was looking guiltily at these nice boots, the lady wasn't like, it's okay, he doesn't need them, he'll be fine. It wasn't any of that. It was, it's okay to take them. He's one of the clean ones.
Right.
So what the fuck is going on with dwarves in this world? That's going to require some research at some point.
Dwarves in The Witcher, so.
I mean, people used to treat them like they were subhuman and still do.
Well, but it's one thing, like, I mean, freak show stuff, sure. I mean, all that was kind of abusive, but I don't know, this...
It was beyond right.
It seems, it seems there's something going on there with rich people, and it's like, it was like a house elf from Harry Potter, like a servant
Right, that's
dwarf.
what I was thinking, yeah.
Like,
like
he's
Dobby.
not even... Yeah. Not
but
even human.
Dobby was like okay with serving until he realized he shouldn't be serving.
There's some exposition. There's a long conversation at night between that lady and Ciri, and it's not a lot. Ciri's under a fake name. I think she called herself Freya. No, Freya's the actress's name. Fiona. Fine.
Fiona, right?
Yes.
I didn't get a lot out of that, but we do learn that Ciri's parents died when she was little, which is why her grandmother raised her. We get that much out of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then eventually, yes?
I think I remember they died in a shipwreck. I think that's how they died.
That sounds correct. We don't get that, of course, until much later in the show, but that sounds right. That sounds familiar.
Sounds like Frozen.
Yeah.
And Ciri, instead of freezing things, can blow things up with her mouth.
She screams at things.
Eventually, Nilfgaard finds the camp, so the camp gets attacked. The dwarf dude has had enough. He snaps when he's getting orders to carry a bunch of like gold and silver like treasures out of this camp.
Yeah.
And he just starts stabbing the shit out of the asshole lady. So like,
well, he dropped it or something, and
we
she's
need
like,
a story about
asshole.
that guy. I want that guy's adventures. I want a spin-off series. I love him.
Oh, that'd be great.
Like, you know, Jimmy's Quest for Freedom or whatever you want to call the show. But I love that guy, and I hope we get to see him again someday. But meanwhile, Dara cuts open the tent and gets Ciri out of there. And at the very end of it, we find out he's an elf. So, that's why he's not associating with humans. Yep. But he can talk. I don't know.
And that's why he wouldn't go there.
But
why didn't he talk to begin with?
Like, it's not like elves have like a weird accent that gives them away. If it was like, I'm Dara, and she's like, well, that's what all elves sound like. All elves talk like,
maybe so he didn't have to explain himself or lie.
Or he's just shy.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Where's his parents? Maybe he has a lot of PTSD or something going on. I don't know. It could be anything. But that's the Ciri story. Did we miss anything? I think that was...
Well, I think her middle name is Fiona, and so that's why she gives Fiona.
Oh, yeah, that's some good trivia. All right. I can dig it. Ciri meets a bunch of very unpleasant people, but she is learning what humans are really like, and she's going to have to pick a side, I feel like, at some point in whatever's going on. Like, Nilfgaard's bad, but so is Sintra. Like, everybody's an asshole.
Mm-hmm. She's going to have to be the one that brings everybody back together and says, hey, stop it, assholes. That was a long time ago.
Maybe Ciri and her friendship with Dara and whatever's going on with her magicalness, maybe her destiny is to bring peace between elves and man. That would be cool.
Seems like that. Is probable.
Bring balance to the force, so to speak. All right, so that brings us to the big story of 4 marks. We meet a character, Yennefer. Yennefer of a town called Vengerberg. That's a good combo. I like that. When she calls herself Yennefer of Vengerberg, I love that.
I want to point out here, when we're talking that in the books, you don't actually get to witness Yennefer's backstory. So this is the first time that it's not just, in her thoughts or what she says to someone. This is actually, you get to see what happening to her backstory.
Oh, good. Well, I like it.
So this was completely made up for the show. Completely made up for the show. It's not in the books. It's not in. It's not in the books. It's not in the game. It's just completely, show. Well,
then that's whoever wrote this episode or the team of people. They must have really, consumed all the content of the books so that I'm sure it's in the book somewhere, like the process of becoming a wizard and the transformations and the ascendants and all that stuff. Yeah. I'm sure it's all in there, touched on little bit by bit, and they decided to assemble it into an origin story for Yennefer, and that's really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
So, of course, instantly, because she looks different, she's being abused by,
everyone.
just shitty white people. And but she's freaking out in the trauma and winds up accidentally teleporting herself out of that situation. And she winds up in a funky room where there's just skulls and bones everywhere. Yeah, this scully, bony cave.
Yes.
Yeah.
Catacombs.
The Tower of Gold.
There you go.
Tower of Gold in Aretusa.
In Aretusa, right. And she meets a guy in Aretusa. He tells her where she is, so he mentions the word Aretusa. Yep. And his name is Istred. And he tells her that she portaled herself by making a portal or something like that. What do we think of him right off the bat? He seems okay.
Fishy.
He seems pretty nice, actually.
I was very suspicious of him.
He doesn't seem as surprised to see someone just appear out of thin air as he probably should.
Mm-hmm. But he probably has seen that from people, witches doing it.
Yeah, maybe. But how many of them accidentally wind up in Aretusa? Maybe it's fate, destiny.
Well, she ended up there for a reason.
Because she was wishing to go somewhere where she could be powerful?
Right. It was, but one of the reasons she goes there is because that's one of the places where a lot of elfin blood was, and since we later find out that her father was half elf.
Yes.
She has to go someplace very powerful, so
that's interesting.
Why she ended up there. She did there.
That place was like a magnet for her.
Yeah, it was like a magnet. It was calling her because of the blood that was spilled.
That's a fun observation. All right, I like that. Not fun, dead people, but all right. Istred looks worried that quote unquote she will be coming for her. That probably is Tisaya. And then he eats a piece of a flower and makes a portal, says it's untraceable. I mean, what guy doesn't say that? Oh, come on, lady. No one can track this car. Let's go have an affair. Doesn't that stuff happen? I don't know.
Well,
credit cards. I don't know. I'm thinking of something in the real world. There's an analog there somewhere. He's lying to her. That's all I know.
Mm-hmm.
Untraceable portal, he says.
The flower is called is a fanewood flower, by the way.
There you go.
It's called fanewood.
Mm-hmm.
He says it later on.
Yes, he does.
What type of flower he uses.
You're right.
Yep.
And he eats a little flower off of it, and then she goes away. So he says her name, but she doesn't say hers.
He says
his name.
Say hers.
Right. He says, I'm Istrid, and she's like, see ya. Adios.
Peace out, yo. So we go back to her. She's back at, just pig slop and abuse, just an awful life. And then Tisaya shows up, who we meet Tisaya, and she comes to buy a pig or Yennefer. A pig is worth 10 marks of whatever that money is. Yep. And Yennefer apparently is worth less than half of that, as she gets sold to Tisaya for 4 marks.
So sad.
Right.
It's not going to be good for your self-esteem.
Now, how come the woman had sex with the elf to produce Yennefer?
He was a half elf.
Okay.
Is the thing.
So why did she have sex with him? It looks like she was already happily married with this nice man.
Oh, happily married?
Do you think?
No, I don't think she was happy. I think Yennefer was the oldest one.
Oh.
And she was a stepchild. I think maybe the other one died before Yennefer was.
She looked to me like middle.
Remarried.
Or he was killed in the purge.
I thought she was the oldest.
Okay. Well, that makes more sense to me.
Let's go to the timeline real quick because we can figure this out. Yennefer was born in the year 1192. Mm-hmm. She is 32 years younger than Geralt. But anyway, I mentioned the 1192 because the Great Cleansing begins in 1187. 5 years before Yennefer was born. So her actual blood dad, who was a half-elf, must have been in hiding.
Wearing a hat. Maybe he must have been wearing a hat all the time.
He could have died at any point.
He was the guy in town that always had a hat on.
He's a hat man.
People just came to accept it.
The haberdasher.
The way they called him. And then when he grew up, they called him Hat Man. But then he died. And now she has the evilest stepdad ever. Although there was no stopping Tisaya. I mean, she was going to get Yennefer.
So I think we're right. When Yennefer portaled, I think that it's like a GPS signal showed up on Tisaya's.
Yeah, basically.
That shit happens.
That's what he told her.
That is well documented. Ding, ding. I mean, as far as how real magic is, that is very well documented in Harry Potter as well.
Oh, right. That's right. You can't do real magic in the Muggle world.
They're not allowed to do magic in the Muggle world. And when they start doing magic, there's a trace that gets put on them. So, yeah. All right. So anyway.
Or is that just what they say?
It seems to be true.
Okay.
I'm sure it's all fact-based. This is how magic works. I did make a note that at the very least, Yennefer's mom did seem to be sad about Yennefer being sold for 4.
Oh, she was devastated.
Yeah. So Yennefer had one person that loved her, kind of. Not
Now,
well
if you're
enough
that woman,
to stop the abuse.
the mom,
Which woman?
Yennefer's mom.
What about her?
I mean, do you leave? You don't have anywhere to go. This man supposedly is taking care of you, but he seems like
Oh, yeah.
probably
Like,
not
do you
very
stay
well.
with that guy after he sold your firstborn daughter?
And she's got all these other daughters.
Well, yeah, you probably wind up having to stay with him because what are you going to do? You need a
Right.
roof over their heads.
Nobody will hire a woman.
Can't leave that guy with all the daughters.
Ugh.
Can't be trusted. All right, so Yennefer gets locked up in a tower, almost like a princess, but whatever. She's mad and scared. And then I wrote, but you know what? It's a room with a bed and there's no pig slop.
Right. She's not getting abused.
Right. But she has very bad self-esteem. I think we can all agree upon that. Bad self-image.
I think she thinks she's going to be tortured.
Maybe. She tries to kill herself. And she fails.
Or used for experiments.
Ooh, experiments. Yeah, that would be bad.
Autopsies.
Tesea found her and stitched her up. And Tesea introduces herself and says she's in charge of Aretusa, which is the same place Yennefer
She calls
had
herself
just
a
been.
rectoress. Have you ever heard that saying before? Rectoress of Aretusa.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that. I've heard that
I looked
word.
it up. I looked it up. Basically, she's just a female governor is what she is. But I'd never heard anyone been called a rectoress before.
I feel like I've heard of it.
I feel like I have too, but maybe it's from this.
I've probably heard of rectors.
I looked it up. I mean, it is a word. I mean, it's a word. I mean, so it's just governor.
And so Yennefer has her wrists all stitched up, and it's time for classes. Yenny Potter. So Yenny Potter goes down to herbology and starts learning about magic. It's channeling chaos. So we get to learn a little bit about the world building here. We meet one particular classmate,
Right.
Fringilla.
Earlier when we were talking about Geralt, we forgot to mention that they talked about the chaos being now corrupted by the humans. Philip Andro had said that they corrupted the chaos.
But Geralt said that wasn't true. Although, maybe
he
he
said
doesn't
they
know as well.
adapted it. Is what he said.
Right.
But yeah. And we find out what some of the people did to get there. Fringilla froze a cat.
Yeah, that was the only one. Like, the other people don't seem to really matter that much, but Fringilla started with cruelty. Like, Yennefer saved herself with her initial form of magic, whereas Fringilla harmed an animal. So fuck her, right?
Well, we get to learn a lot about her later on. And I think, we can wait till that episode, but I want to just mention now that since this is our second watch, you remember the betrothal and stuff, and we'll talk about it when it gets to that. But Nilfgaard wasn't always strong.
Yeah,
it was kind of laughed at. You see that in one of the episodes. But when Fringilla goes there, and they go to what they were in the first episode, where they're taking no prisoners. So it's kind of interesting change, and it was really interesting and made me when I watched the episode with the betrothal, which happens I think in 2 more episodes. That's the one that caught me. I was like, okay, I'm done. I gotta watch the rest of these because it got me. Like, I gotta watch this now. I gotta see what's going on.
Yeah, Fringilla's in.
Fringilla was.
She's
not. Yeah,
she's an interesting character. We can give her that. So the keys to controlling chaos are balance and control. Otherwise, the chaos will kill you. Fringilla's a natural in this first class. She has to levitate a rock, and she does it instantly, but then she withers her hand in just disgusting ways. I guess that gets fixed later. Okay, and then Tesea shows that you can hold a flower in your hand and channel the chaos into the flower, and that withers instead of you. So you got to make sure you're properly kitted out for whatever you're about to be doing, which doesn't explain like Mousesack keeping a barrier up for hours. I mean, what was he channeling the chaos into? Was there a blight halfway across the country?
Well, you probably figure it out later when you're more, it's coming out his feet.
Sure.
He's using the floor.
Dispersing the chaos into the castle. I guess. Anyway, Yennefer is not a natural. She does try chewing one of the flowers because she saw Istrid do that. It doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. She does that, and that kind of makes, Tesea, I'm always pronouncing her name wrong, a little suspicious of why she was doing that. Like, why would she try to chew it? And then,
I think she realizes she's different. That's like that. At that point, she's like, this girl's got a lot of potential.
And she's seen stuff that she shouldn't have. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Then we also see an eye-gazing class where you got to read people's minds, and Yennefer tries to cheat, maybe with the help of her friend or something. And that doesn't go over well. So Tisea is really just not enjoying this experience, seemingly. So Yennefer finds her comfort in going and finding Istred, who's just always there. And she goes to him pretty regularly from the looks of it. But eventually he gets her to focus enough to read his mind, and it actually works. So then she feels some measure of success, and probably the sky's the limit after that, right?
Right.
We don't see a lot of other classes, but we do see Tisea taking the girls.
I did want to say when she came and saw him in the tower, was the first time she gave her name.
Oh gosh!
Before that, she was called Piglet or
right.
That's a fair point. And then the next sort of class we see is more of a test. They have to go capture lightning in a bottle from this tower, which is like the most magical place in all the land or something like that. So this lightning, and the first girl gets blasted unconscious. The second girl catches the lightning in a bottle, but then the bottle explodes right into her face. Yennefer gets blasted hard too, but then as she watches another girl succeed and kind of gloat about it, she freaks out, screams, and fires lightning from her arm.
She like absorbed the light.
She caught it. That's where she absorbed it.
That's cool. I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
That'd be so awesome.
Yeah.
And Tisea does not like how wild Yennefer is and threatens her.
If she can control her emotions, you see how powerful she is, basically.
Well, yeah, she's definitely got power, but what we haven't seen, and I don't even think we ever see it, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it comes up next episode. Like, we don't see Yennefer ever succeeding in class. Like, we don't see her starting to get it. So I think that
was a success, though. She actually caught the lightning. She just didn't do it the way they wanted her to.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and that's why Tisea is so annoyed. But I mean, I feel like there's got to be something else. Like, I hope she could levitate the rock eventually. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I hope that she's been able to do something.
We see how powerful she is because she does the portal like first try with Istrid. First try.
Right.
She does the portal.
Mm-hmm. That's coming up, I think.
I think we're just not seeing all of that happening, but it is happening.
They didn't have time to show us the full training montage with like 80s rock music.
No, that'd be awesome.
It would be awesome if they did, right? Okay, so Yennefer is worried that if she gets kicked out of school or whatever, or doesn't get to ascend, that she'll lose Istred. So she goes back there, and Istred starts explaining the room they're in, and it's built on the bones of the elves who built Aretuza in the first place. Elves are the original sorcerers of the continent. They taught humans how to use magic. God, this seems so American. And American humans slaughtered the elves and rewrote history. So then, as Kevin was just saying, Yennefer tastes of the magic flower, makes a portal, and apparently her job was to get her hands on that flower. So,
well, her job was to prove to Tisea that she could manipulate somebody else.
I guess so, but I think specifically Istred. I think Tisea knows that Istred's hanging out.
She can control her emotions.
Right.
She wanted to make sure she control her emotions. But I did want to point out that Yennefer's biggest fear is that even if she was pretty, nobody would love her. Mm-hmm. And then the first person to show her kindness, even when she wasn't pretty, she turns on. But she backstabs.
By taking the flower? I mean, is that a backstab?
And bringing it, but she brought
But he was doing the same to her.
She chewed the flower.
Yeah, but she doesn't know that.
Right.
Maybe she does.
Know that.
Maybe she does.
She chewed the flower in that first class with levitation. So Tisea knew that something was going on with her, that she had seen it happen somewhere else. So she wanted to know how. And so she's like, she talked to her, she found out something was wrong. And she's like, you know what? If you can trick this guy into giving you the flower, you will let me know that you can control your emotions. Or teach you how to do it, basically.
Right.
Because it's a power that they don't want to get out. It's a power that he doesn't want to get out to anyone.
Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be a secret, right?
Like the first chance she...
Well, she doesn't want...
She wants power.
Well, she wants power. Well, she doesn't want to lose him. She's definitely in love with him.
No, I don't think... I mean, I think she probably already weighed the... she knows she's going to lose him if she chooses power over him, if she chooses to betray him to Tisea.
Well, but if she gets kicked out of the school, she's going to lose him anyway. So I think she's doing whatever she has to do right now to stay in school.
Right.
She turns on him. That's all I got to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I guess she betrayed him. I mean, it's just a flower. Are you telling me Tissaia couldn't go into that tower and get a flower herself?
It's not just...
No,
it's not just the flower. She's explaining how he's doing the magic.
Right, and he's supposed to be...
Which he said it was a secret.
Right, it's a secret. And she's
not
supposed to tell anybody.
You're right. That was a betrayal, I guess. But that means the whole, like, brotherhood of dude sorcerers is a bunch of fucking pricks for keeping it to themselves. So we're back to men are awful. All right.
Okay. Agreed.
Yennefer does tell him that she's a quarter elf, and that's why she's deformed. Her dad was a half elf. Does that really... I mean, if dad was a half elf, I don't know.
Those genes don't mix, is what she's saying.
But dad was a half elf. He must have been...
Those genes don't mix.
Okay, so half elves, is it like a mule? Like once you breed a horse and a donkey, like, you know, the result has to be like sterile, or because if you were to breed it, it would have 8 heads
exactly.
and breathe fire or something like that?
Right.
Okay, that's how donkeys work, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I have no clue what you're talking about. I'm guessing.
Anyway, she says that's why she's deformed. I don't know if that's true, but maybe it is. Okay, so we know about the betrayal. Yennefer asks if she can ascend. She has to listen for, quote, the knock. And while she's waiting for the knock, we find out that Istred is also betraying Yennefer because he's spying on her for Stregobor. We don't know why he's spying on her for Stregobor, but Stregobor wants to know more about Yennefer, and the fact that she's part elf seems important.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Okay. Yennefer does not get the knock later that night, but she hears the knock going on and winds up spying on the little party.
I was thinking about this.
Yes.
And I was thinking, did she mean listen? She must have meant listen for me knocking on other people's doors and then come.
Well, that's an interesting question. Did she want Yennefer to come spy? Did she know that Yennefer was going to come spy anyway?
I think so. I didn't think so at first, but then now looking back at it after we watched it again, I'm like,
really
she probably meant listen for the knock. Otherwise, she would have said, come to this room at such and such time or whatever instead, you know?
No, I thought it meant wait till I knock on your door, and then Yennefer snuck out and went and looked at it.
That's what I thought too.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, at first glance, it's like, I'll knock on your door if you get to ascend.
Mm-hmm. And Tissaia knew she wasn't going to knock on her door.
Right, babe. I think you're right. I think she said, listen for the knock because she wanted Yennefer to come see what's up.
Right.
She knows that Yennefer's got potential because she could get a flower.
She's the one. Somehow.
Somehow. Right. Tissaia must know something too. Stregobor knows there's something special about Yennefer, so maybe Tissaia does too. Maybe Yennefer was never in danger of being...
Wait, what? You said Stregobor.
Yeah. Stregobor is having Istrid spy on Yennefer. We don't know why, but there must be something.
That was a different person altogether. That wasn't Stregobor.
What are you talking about? That was
Stregobor wasn't the person that was...
someone called Mark No, that wasn't Stregobor.
Fuck. What are you talking about, bro?
I'll tell you the name of the character. Hold on. It wasn't Stregobor. Stregobor was only in the first episode. But anyways, keep talking. I'll look it up for you.
All right. Well, now I got to go watch that scene again. Well, we're almost to the end of the episode anyway. So Yennefer doesn't get the knock, spies on the ceremony, and the ceremony involves turning her classmates and friends into eels.
Right.
That's cool.
So that they can be, so that they can be, not portals. What does she call it?
Batteries.
Batteries, basically. You're right. They're fueling the magic.
They're like electric eels, but it's magic instead of electricity. And if you don't have enough eels, the school's lights turn off.
Right.
So everyone has to make a sacrifice for the sake of power.
This is like that thing in Skyrim, that big magical thing at the magic.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
At the magical kingdom.
The magical thing, though. It got the lights that come up.
Winterhold.
Well, the College of Winterhold.
Yes.
You got that. But then there's the
balls of
thing underneath it.
Right. The light that comes out. It looks exactly the same. It's like everybody is
stealing from each other.
Yeah. All of these stories. This is just Cinderella.
It all started with Tolkien, man. He wrote the most epic high fantasy and made it such a deep world. And everyone's been stealing from that and then from each other ever since then.
I guess.
That's where it all comes from. Yennefer pushes the eels into the water. We see what it does. And then she's kind of excited, I guess.
She's fascinated now. She doesn't give a shit about those eels.
Yeah, she's like, they were my friends, but look, the light's so pretty.
Now I'm going to be powerful.
This is how magic works. But Tisea also smiles, which I thought was noteworthy.
Right.
Like
This is the first time she's like given any kind of heart.
I think it was behind Yennefer's back, but still she smiled a little bit. Like something's gone right tonight.
Yes.
With the whole eel ceremony.
She has control over her, basically. She just made her kill her friends or turn them into eels.
Yeah, maybe
but it wasn't that kind of a sly smile, though. The smile was actually real, and it seemed heartfelt.
It seemed like she was actually...
warmed.
Yeah, warmed. That's a good word for it. I like that. And that's the whole episode. That was all 3 storylines.
You're right.
We did it.
You know what? You're right. It actually was Stregobor.
Oh,
I saw the name that he used. He actually talked about. He said make Van Art proud, but he was talking about a different. Like that's a city. So I was Stregobor. I thought he was said a different name, make.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, it's a weird feeling. I just got kind of a tingle. Like when you point out
that you were
obscure
right
detail that I've gotten wrong. I've almost always gotten it wrong. It's not very often that I'm actually right. So thanks, Kevin.
It's not often that actually somebody affirms that you're right. You're right a lot.
No, well,
because when I was watching, I thought it was Stregobor, and he said a different name, and I was like, oh, maybe I was wrong. But then you said it, and I was like, well, maybe I was right.
Now I didn't know that. What was that name? Ben-Ur or something like that.
It's a city known for mining and magical academies. So that's where their magic academy is.
So I didn't know that was a city. I remember that name being said, and I just figured that was like the Grand Master of all the wizards or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
But no, it's their city. Academy. It's their home, their academy. It's their Hogwarts. Yeah. Got it. All right. Cool. Well, that's the end of episode 2. We made it. And I think episode 1 had a lot more like exposition with the interweaving timelines, but here we get this interesting subplot of the elves, and that doesn't really come up, I don't think, again in the first season, but I think it's going to be a big part of the overall.
When is the new season coming out?
I don't know.
Not until 2021, I would think.
I have a feeling that production's going slow right now, but let me just
they could be doing all of their graphics. Time for
people can be doing a lot of that stuff.
Chunking that out. It'll probably cost them more overall, but
right now it's just season 2 is expected to premiere in 2021. I don't think there's no real news on specifics. So, although 2 days ago, Games Radar had a headline that says Witcher season 2 could resume production very soon, and that's true. I mean,
everybody could.
People are getting back to work now, even though this whole plague thing is not over and it's going to cause problems. But what are you going to do? I mean, we can't all stay home forever. I understand the need to get back to work. It's just going to be a real shame when the plague explodes.
It'll be all right. Everything will be okay.
I hope so.
It's going to be okay.
I like your positivity. I dig it. Thanks, babe. Mm-hmm. You feeling positive, Kevin?
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, good. I'm glad we're all feeling good.
I wanted to mention that this was a pretty good episode because you got a little bit of world building, and I enjoy world building a lot when I watch some of these.
Yeah,
things.
Me too.
You get to learn about race. You get to learn about the racism that was going between the humans and everyone. I guess dwarfs, elves. You learn a lot about the witches.
Yep.
And
right.
It's just it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to learn that stuff. I mean, there wasn't much going on like in the first one where you had the huge battle, the huge brutal battle, and then you had the huge fight. But I mean, as far as you learning stuff, it was pretty cool to see the process.
Yeah, that's true.
I was excited to get back. I was excited to get back and start watching again after watching it. And really, this is one of those shows that second, third watching is makes it almost better.
Oh, definitely.
The first one, you're so confused. You're like jumping around from here and jumping around timelines and stuff, but like you definitely catch stuff you didn't catch last time. That just makes it like, oh, that's why they did this. That's why they said this. This is,
Yep.
But again, like I said, like I read complaints about this series, and I've said we were jumping around timelines. It was confusing. I didn't know we were jumping around timelines, but it really doesn't matter in the moments that they're jumping around timelines. Like, does it really matter that Geralt was happening way before series? I mean, does it? Up until until they're jumping timelines, it didn't matter.
Right. It didn't matter.
No, that's true. And then once you do know, it's more interesting.
Then you get confused.
Well, yeah. As soon as you find out there's multiple timelines, you're like, holy shit, I don't know what's going on anymore. But you're right. It turns out it doesn't necessarily matter. It's just backstory of Geralt. But it does make the second watch so much better. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I will give a preview for the next one we do, for episode 3.
Next time on Pod of Thrones.
Like when I watched the first time, I like kind of watched the name stuff. I kind of got that they were doing something like that because of just the whole entire mention about Queen Calanthe just won and that whole entire thing. But in episode 3, they do something where you see an older king talking, and then you see the young picture of them, and then you see them as younger kids in an episode. And that's really like hey, look at this. The king's now older, but here they were younger. So you kind of get the understanding of what's going on. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about that then. I'll tell you the exact scenes when it happens.
I think you're right. I mean, I remember being like, there was a certain point when certain things happened. I don't remember what they are right now, but it could be what you just described, where I was like, babe, I think this show's taking place in multiple timelines. We're getting Westworlded. God damn it. And it turned out to be okay.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. But I think they do some things like that to reward the people who watch it more than once, or reward the people who are listening, for these things. So.
Yeah, I agree. It's good to get rewarded for paying attention.
I think the biggest complaint with people was they were doing different timelines, and I really didn't understand it. I'm like, but they gave you clues, and until you actually need to know, I mean, does it really matter? So anyway.
Yeah, you really have to pay attention.
That's the kind of show I dig.
Right.
Yep.
Too.
All right. Well, we'll be back next week, I think, with season 1, episode 3.
Let's do it.
Until then, you can always reach out to us. I am Jeff at podofthrones.com.
Jennifer at podofthrones.com.
Or you can find us on Twitter. As always, I'm at Pod of Thrones.
Kid-free weekend.
And as Kevin always says, if you want to talk to him, go through us first. So we got that.
I pay them good money to sort my mail.
That is right. I need that paycheck. I need the paycheck. It's important. All right. So stay safe, everybody. Avoid the plague. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. And we'll talk to you all soon.
Night.
Bye. All right. We're clear.
Sweet.
Thank you,
I gotta
Kevin.
go pee.
Jennifer has to go pee. So.
All right. So when did you want to meet again?
2 weeks from today, if we can.
I thought you said next week we will be back. Oh, that's this.
Right. We just recorded 2 episodes, babe. I know it's hard to believe, but we did.
So you think about the 14th? That's only 1 week.
I guess 21st. Is that Father's Day 21st. Weekend?
That's Father's Day.
Ugh. All right.
We might have to do the 20th.
Yeah, we can probably do that. That should be fine. Okay.
I don't know. You might not be child free that weekend then.
I will be, but then not on Sunday. So my ex will still have the kids on Friday and Saturday.
Well, then we'll have to do it Saturday night then.
Okay. I think we can do that.
Yeah. I like the episode. I liked the series the first time I watched it. And I had told you guys, hey, watch this series ahead of time. I really liked it. But then watching it the second time, I liked it even more.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It was a good watch today.
All right.
Good way to break up the weekend. All right. Well, go see what your wife is doing, and we'll talk soon.
She's painting. I told you that. All right.
Oh.
Later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. I just want to record a quick cold intro.